So when people talk about Judaism or Christianity, in our current state of intellectualism, where we are at as people, people tend to kind of undermine it or put it down a lot of the time or act as though it is something that is not extremely complicated and very full of knowledge and wisdom to be taken in. Obviously, as humans, we're not going to take in everything we read and live by it 100%. That's impossible. We can try to do that, but that's not the point in my opinion. So it's interesting because people, the biggest argument I hear from atheists or people trying to discount God, they say, well, if there's evil and God doesn't do anything about it, then how is God God? How is he omnipotent and all powerful to allow these things to happen? And that's a good question, and I totally understand people wanting to dive into that, but it all comes to the idea of perspective. And it really goes to the root of the situation, which is beautifully displayed in the book of Genesis. So, in the beginning, God created all of these things, and he said it was good. He never said, this is bad. What he created, he never said what he created was bad. It turned bad, but the interesting part about that is, what is good and bad? As humans, we conceptualize that. It's very based on our moral brain of how we view the world in this binary duality of right and wrong, good, evil, darkness, light, whatever you want to call it. But when God created these things in the beginning, it was all good. And some will say that, oh, the space, the darkness between what God created wasn't good. He didn't say that. But what is said in the book of Genesis is a very important thing to take in and understand, is the tree of knowledge, what the tree of knowledge really is, and how that affected humanity. And God knew it would too. But for humans, what is knowledge? What is the venture of knowledge? It can be taken as a lot of things, but really breaking it down, it's the structure of this binary code and how it works. Understanding what's good and what's bad up in our, frontal cortex, to really see how things work. We have sort of our DNA instinct, that intuition, which doesn't always go with that. It'll lead us on the right path, but it's not about understanding it with knowledge in our brain. And before that, there wasn't good and evil. It says the tree of good and evil, but we made that a thing. Or it was the tree of knowledge. And people call it the tree of good and evil, or it says the tree of good and evil, to eat from that tree. Before that, things were good. It wasn't so confusing. But the thing that broke us away from God and why God threw us out was eating from the tree of knowledge, the tree of, oh, this is how things can be broken down. And I'm not saying knowledge is a bad thing, but the way the tree that was eaten from seems to have been very powerful, because it's obvious in where we are at now as people that knowledge really changed a lot of things. It was a very prominent force. Now, what that tree was, I can't say for sure. Maybe it was an actual fruit that they ate from. Maybe it was some transcendental light source that they took from. Maybe it's a complete metaphor, and something happened. They made a choice that they wanted to be greater. They wanted to be more like God, or they wanted more control than they had. It was more of an exalting of themselves that they went beyond without really thinking about humility and being humble in the process. They just went for the gold, and we end up here as it is now. Now, why is that important now? Especially for that question, because knowledge is the thing that's sort of driving us away from understanding spirituality or understanding God or our connection to that source energy. That's the point that I want to really focus on it from here to the end of the video, is that knowledge that we took from, that we gained, that we encompassed into our brains, the knowledge I'm using right now to explain this way of thinking, this mythos that's very prominent in many cultures of the world, takes us away from God. So let's look back at the original question, or that was brought up, and Greek philosophers have talked about it. Other philosophers from the Age of Enlightenment have talked about it. Is if God is all powerful and good, why would he let evil happen? If he allows evil to happen and he has the power to stop it, that means he doesn't have power. He's not able to do that. And that's the question they pose. They don't always put it in an absolute way, sort of the way they bring it into this Socratic method, which, is important. I'm not saying they're wrong or that's not a right way to think about it, but I'm posing the idea that the question in which we ask about God is the actual journey away from God. So as we try to understand God more with our brains and our just this whole axiomatic thought process, the more we drift away from God. It's sort of how it is. It's like chasing a mirage. It's not so simple. So then that also comes into the idea of a lot of looking at it from a more fourth dimensional, just multi-faceted way of thinking, brings up a ton of different questions. And it's an important exercise to think about it these ways, as our perspective actually being a very important part of what we're actually trying to understand. Instead of just looking at archaeology and all these historical documents, understanding our connection to these documents and these artifacts is super important, and is a big thing that a lot of us are missing when we're really trying to understand the concept of God, or just feeling the relationship with God. And I'm not a very conservative Christian person. If you haven't noticed already, I feel that relationship is very personal, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to do that. The only thing I would say is love, obviously, is an important thing. And if we use knowledge to try to understand love, that's a good experiment. I want people to go out and ask people what they think love really is. What does love mean to you? You'll get a lot of different answers. And even in the Bible, which, is called a love letter from God to people, has many different definitions of what love is. But there's that one part of love, or the love that I consider to be God, that you can't really put down in words. Knowledge doesn't express it fully. It's something that needs to be felt, and that's the connection that so many people are missing. That's what I consider to be real love. And then yet again, I can't say that my love is 100% the right love for you, because love can manifest in so many different ways. But God is love. That's what I've come to learn. That's what I believe. I don't think of it as some big rule basis thing. I feel if you follow love and godly living, which is a selfless path to helping others, and in that selfless path you find yourself back home to where you are, that's where you really see that God is that reflection of you, or you are a reflection of God. And that's a very beautiful thing. And it's attainable now. It's attainable whenever. When you really feel that connection to totality, the strength of God, that you know and you feel God's heart telling you where you need to go, where things are going to go, which isn't always 100% clear, but the one thing that I do feel God really helps give is security and comfort in those situations. And even for people who don't believe in God very much, they still pray to God. We all do at some point. If you're in a life or death situation, who are you praying to? Well, blessings and love to all of you guys, and whoever's watching, cool. Keep following. I'll be putting more stuff out, and please click the subscribe button. That'd be cool. Actually gonna maybe try to give this a go. Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, bye.